Hi there and welcome to another episode of Money Moves with Debt Rescue, the channel where we help you move your money in the right direction. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking all things credit reports. A credit report is something that forms part of our credit active life and starts the moment we get our first cell phone account, insurance or credit agreement, and follows us right throughout. So it's important that we know what does it do, how does it work, and why is it important for us to take care of our credit reports. Your credit report is in essence a set of data that is held by the various credit bureaus that we have in South Africa and shows a whole bunch of different information relating to credit agreements, short-term insurance and cell phone accounts that will then determine what your credit score is ultimately. It's important to understand that firstly, as a South African consumer, you are allowed to one free credit report per annum. And it's very simple and we'll explain quickly how you get there. But it's important that you know the content of your credit report because this determines a lot of your future transactions when it comes to credit and how you apply for them and what they mean for you specifically. So there's a whole variety of different credit bureaus registered in South Africa, and what they do is monthly your credit providers, which contain the information relating to specific credit accounts that you have, will send that information through to these credit bureaus. So they're in essence a repository of the information, and they take that and turn it into a report. And these reports can then be accessed by ourselves as consumers, as well as our credit providers, to see when we do want to apply for credit, what kind of information they have pertaining to our credit activity and how we conduct our accounts. As at Q1 of 2022, the credit bureaus hold the records of 26 million credit active consumers, and of them, around about 10 million currently have an impaired credit record, meaning that they are behind on one or more of their payments by 3 months. So this information then, as we know of the 61 million odd of us in South Africa, is quite a significant number of us who are credit active in the credit market right now. So understanding the kind of information that is being held is very important. Understanding again that every transaction that we perform in our credit lives gets recorded monthly and is sent then through to the credit bureaus to create our credit reports. So let's start at the very beginning. What does a credit report contain? A credit report contains all your credit information. Now this is the number of accounts that you have, the credit limit that was granted to you, the outstanding balance, and then at least the last 2 years worth of credit history. So this is a transactional information that gets sent through to the credit bureaus every single month, and it shows do you pay the right amount every month and do you pay it on time. And then other information would be basic demographics, for example, your place of employment, your contact details, and then very importantly, if you have adverse information listed against you, for example, a judgment, that would also appear on your credit report. So another thing that also gets listed, not just your credit accounts, but also contract cell phones, as well as your short-term insurance. And again, their payment history also reflects on your credit report. So then let's move on to how does a credit report get used? Well, first and foremost, it's important for us to know that us as consumers can get a free credit report annually, and we really recommend that you do this at least once a year. It's very simple. You can go into the box below where we can show you how to access your credit report, and from this information you can then start seeing what your profile looks like. And from here then you can obviously, in the event that any of this information is incorrect, you're able to lodge the dispute if you have one, making sure that you have the relevant documentation on hand, for example proof of payment, so that the information can be corrected. Because this information ultimately works up to a credit score. And the credit score is the most important part of our credit active lives. Now your credit score is made up of various factors, for example, the amount of debt you have, your amount that you are still outstanding, how you are paying it monthly, and so forth. And from that credit score, your future credit agreements will determine what kind of interest rate, for example, you will get. So really important to understand how it works and what its significance is to you. From a consumer perspective, as we've now mentioned, you're entitled to it once per annum. And for a credit provider to access it, they need your consent. So in the event that you are applying for credit, they will ask for your consent that they can access that specific credit report. And they will then be able to go into your credit report and see this transactional history and make a determination as to, based on your affordability again, whether they can grant you credit and what kind of interest rate they're going to be charging you. So now that we understand how a credit report is put together and why it's significant, a lot of times we might see that credit score and that number might not be what we'd hoped it to be. So how can we fix it? What is it that we can do to make our credit score improve? It's a process. Firstly, if it's your first time that you're inquiring for credit, understanding that you're going to be starting from zero or a very little number, and through time, your payment history, the way in which you manage your account will help build up that score. If you're already credit active and you want to look at ways in which you can increase it, there are a few very important things that you can do. Firstly, make sure you pay the minimum amount every single month. If you pay less, that will affect you. Secondly, make sure you pay on time. A late payment will definitely affect your credit score. So make sure that you make your payments on time and at least the minimum amount every single month. And then a third little tip that most of us don't know is those service agreements in the form of cell phone contracts and insurances. They add up as well. So making sure that if you have those, that you are paying them on time and that you are paying the minimum amount monthly as well. A lot of times they could be the small things that help us grow our credit score or potentially trip us up if we're not taking care of them too. Finally, it's also important to remember that other items that could contribute to your credit score is the frequency with which you apply for credit. In other words, if you are doing this quite often, they could potentially see you as a high risk because you could possibly not be paying back the debt that you have, or the amount that you're applying for. If you are applying for large amounts very frequently, again, you could potentially be seen as a person of high risk because if you are not able to pay it, that they couldn't grant you anymore. So keep all of these things in mind as you go through your credit active life. Thank you for joining us in this week's episode. We hope this has been informative. Remember to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and leave any comments in the links below. Remember to check out the box below as well with the link on how you can get your free credit report.